Hello and welcome aboard, cadets. My name is Captain Kibbs, and today we're going to be talking about BattleTech. Now, before we dive off the deep end into the nightmarishly complex universe that is Battle-fucking-Tech, we're going to go over the lore up and to 3025, in which the new turn-based RPG BattleTech by Harebrained Schemes is set in. Firstly, before we start off, I need to say that this is a cursory overview. There is no way in Sam Hell we could fit the books upon books worth of information this universe has into one fucking video. To give you some perspective as to what I mean, the sheer depth and age of BattleTech makes 40k look like fucking child's play. So I'm not kidding around, boys. This shit's gonna get heavy. So, as a way to dumb it down further, we're going to animate this. However, to prevent me from fucking ending it all, I'm going to enlist the help of a good pal of mine, Neonix, with the animating. So say hi, Neonix. Alright. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. By the year 2020, mankind is able to finally unite, bringing about an age of unprecedented peace and advancement in human history. Now, I know what you're thinking, but bear in mind, this was written in like 1984. This stuff, could use some revisioning. Also, during this time, two crazy fucking scientists develop a self-sustaining fusion reactor for General Motors, because of course they did. These two wise guys are named Thomas Kearney and Takayoshi Fujita. In the year 2027, mankind had put this reactor to use in space, using it to power the AS Columbia. They would send a man to Mars. This event would ignite the powder keg of Humies blasting the little fuckers off on a mass colonization to Mars, making mankind's first colony in the solar system. Now, mankind is already getting nice and cozy in the solar system. However, until in 2102, Project Deimos, using research by the same two crazy bastards that for some reason scientists did not give a second thought despite their successes with the fusion reactor earlier, scientists in the 22nd century using their pan-dimensional gravitational mathematics, don't ask, they are able to come up with the first faster-than-light ships. So, what it does is basically creates a warp field around a starship that is capable of jumping the ship up to 30 or so light years within mere nanoseconds. So within like the blink of your eye, bam, just like that. 30 light years. Granted, they have to recharge, but still. That's pretty fucking, that's going to change up the whole way this works here really fast. On the 5th of December 2108, Terra, because that's what we're calling Earth now, I guess, launched the first jump ship called the TAS Pathfinder to Tau Ceti. And back again. Mankind now has the capability of transporting itself 30 light years in mere nanoseconds. In 2116, the first colony outside the Sol system was settled. It's called New Earth. Yeah, real fucking original, guys. Come on. Under the Terran Alliance's government, mankind begins its mass colonization of the stars. At an incredible rate, the Terran Alliance conducted a survey in which they discovered 600 human colonies over a slowly growing sphere of about 80 or so light years. Now, as I'm sure you cadets can imagine, this rapid expansion is not going to be sustainable for the fledgling Terran Alliance. That is very quickly growing into an intergalactic empire, and with that comes corruption and all sorts of nasty things you see developing empires just like in our timeline. In 2236, a group of colonies that had finally become self-sufficient at the edge of Terran Alliance space had declared independence. They would become known as the Free Worlds League later. Alright, here we fucking go, boys. The Terran Alliance sends in Space Marines. However, they get their asses fucking handed to them. With the success of the rebellion, many other worlds on the fringes of the growing sphere would begin to rebel, seeing that, the Terran Alliance isn't as fucking tough as it originally looked like. The Terran Alliance now, not having enough fucking Ubersmensch to deal with all the rebellious teens, said fuck it. Everything within 30 light years of Terra is ours. The rest of you brats are on your fucking own. Not our fucking problem anymore, boys. And then things are only beginning to get spicy now. Okay, we're just starting to fucking get into the shit here. However, in the year 2314, Terran Alliance, after decades of decay, finally collapses from internal strife and all sorts of other nasty problems. Now consumed by civil war, the Alliance Global Militia, under the command of James McKenna, an admiral, was able to quell the rebellion and tear down the remnants of the corrupt old Terran alliance, replacing it with the new Terran hegemony. In 2316, the grateful populace would elect him as Director General of the Terran hegemony. McKenna would launch a successful Reconquista campaign, or 3 of them to be exact. He would launch 3 fucking Reconquista campaigns to reclaim some of the neighboring colonies that were, lost when they just sort of let them go. Basically expanding out the Terran hegemony further than the old Terran alliance when it, gave independence to all those other nations. All 3 campaigns, brought much victory, much honor to them. It did make all the neighboring colonies a little bit fucking suspicious, and you started to see the formation of alliances and, intergalactic or interstellar forces starting to build up here. However, in 2335, on the 4th campaign, the wrinkly old bat retired, leaving his son Conrad to take over. And in 2338, only a few years later, Conrad led his own naval convoys into a heavily mined system of Samara. Bit of a more on that one. This colossal fuck up on our boy Conrad's part would now see the formation of larger and larger colonial alliance against the Terran hegemony, in sort of a mostly defensive pacts. Now, Conrad would literally go flaccid at this point. There's no glory, there's no boner. It's just flaccid. He doesn't have an heir, and his father has to pick a new one. Or no, never mind. He died. My memory's getting we're getting a little burnt out here. So he dies, and the High Council passes the leadership stick to one of his cousins called James Cameron. James Cameron is the 3rd cousin of Michael Cameron. Now, this is the beginning of the Cameron dynasty. Conrad eventually dies in obscurity. No one really cares. Cameron immediately begins damage control with relations with former colonies. Too much surprise, Cameron succeeds in cementing good relations with even allied colonial worlds, despite the whole Reconquista thing, which had kind of soiled everyone's feelings of the whole Terran hegemony thing, being like, oh god, there's this giant fucking Terran hegemony. But he's like, actually, you know what? We're peaceful now because I'm Cameron, and the Cameron dynasties are totally cool and stuff. In 2351, Cameron then decided to bring back feudalism. Yeah, you fucking heard me right. Feudalism. Because why not? He created this thing called the Peer List, which would establish the equivalent of feudal nobility, whose members owed their exalted rank to their achievements. One of the first people to receive such a title was Dr. Atlas, a man who created the, what did we call them? Fuck, now my memory's definitely going on me. The Myomer bundles, I think. Synthetic muscles creating powerful work mechs that they would use for civilian use mostly. Luckily, though, for Dr. Atlas, he would not live to see his humble and innovative machines wreak utter havoc on mankind, because the Battle Mech had yet to be invented. That would be invented later on in 2439. So we have quite a way to go till we get to that point. As time would go on, the Peer List would continue to gain traction throughout the known sphere, eventually creating feudal ruling families. So basically, we're back in fucking kings and shit, or we have these dynasties and all these, little feudal societies, the fiefdoms and shit. Tensions through the centuries amidst these fiefdoms would escalate into total warfare. Battle after battle, each more savage than the last. Things would just continue to escalate out of control as more and more would just be like, there's nothing holding them in place. Like in our world, we had the Geneva Convention, and we have, Western world powers that hold us, responsible, and there's huge repercussions and trade embargoes. They didn't really have to worry about that, and that's why things got really bad. It reached a breaking point where worlds upon worlds became uninhabitable due to all the nuclear fucking firestorms that would consume entire fucking solar systems. Until a chick named Alicia Liao, House Liao of the Capellan Confederation. She would write a document called the Ares Convention, limiting warfare and banning the use of superweapons and, just don't fucking obliterate civilians, because it kind of makes everybody a little bit sad when you come home to your wife and kids burnt to a fucking crisp. On June 13th of 2412, all nations, including the Terran hegemony, which I think at this point with the Camerons isn't really a surprise, would sign the Ares Convention. However, on the flip side, the document also technically legalized warfare. Therefore, it made it a way of settling disputes more naturally. However, warfare would see a complete change in the BattleTech universe at this time point to becoming more noble, more honorable. Things would begin to shift, and with the feudal systems, that would sort of elevate with the whole nobility and being judged by thine actions and things like that. So you're starting to see a shift in the way mankind is sort of operating. This is what's cool about BattleTech, which kind of blows 40K and I think a lot of other science fictions out of the water, because it shows these gradual shifts. And I don't know, I'm just fascinated by how it does that. In mere centuries, which is very much similar to how rapidly things change in our timeline. And it's just human nature. So this pretty much ends the prehistory. So that was the back lore. Now, we just fucking touched the iceberg. Like, there's so much more to this. Like, 40K, fucking Game of Thrones, they got nothing on BattleTech. BattleTech's just fucking like, what? You got nothing, boy. But I'm not going to touch up on that because we'll never get this video done. Because I want to get to the point where the BattleTech game that Harebrained Studios, or Harebrained Interactive, fuck, what is it? Whatever. Those guys are making. I'm looking forward to that. Ugh, my speech pattern's falling apart. All right, now let's go over some shit because, as you guys know, my brain is melting at this point, which didn't take long because BattleTech is that fucking complicated. I'm glossing over so much detail, but my brain is thinking about it. Okay, so let's establish some stuff because I glossed over a little bit too much. So we have the Terran Alliance, but that's gone now. So who's on the map? All right, so in the center of the sphere, we have the Terran Hegemony, ruled by House Cameron. We've got the Draconis Combine, ruled by House Kirita. We've got the Federated Suns, ruled by House Davion, the Lyran Commonwealth, ruled by House Shina, the Free World League, ruled by House Merrick, and the Capellan Confederation, ruled by House Liao. Now, there's other nations, which include the Principality of Razelhog, the Rimworld Republic, the Taurian Concordat, and the United Hindu Collective. These are just sort of like periphery states, which the phrase periphery states refers to the little states and sections of little minor nations, which would be later called the Banded Kingdoms, on the edge of the inner sphere, which the inner sphere makes up those major houses, which control the majority of resources, power, manpower, and technology, and are more advanced than most of the periphery states. Not to say the periphery states are complete backwaters, but you'll definitely see a lot more piracy and things like that out in the periphery than you would in the inner sphere. All right, moving on. We're moving on to the real fucking part. This is when shit starts going crazy. We're entering the Star League era. All right. One, two, three. Here we fucking go. All right. What have you been up to, House Cameron? Let's take a peek. I mean, we got the Terran Hegemony. Wait, peace? What are you fucking gay? That's right, guys. In 2549, Ian, I can't even fucking speak, Ian Cameron expanded the hegemony's role in peacemaking for the Inner Sphere. Massively. Completely reversing the whole Reconquestia thing. And I'm sure they got like a plus 50 Diplo check with having Terra as a home state or whatever, being the birthplace of mankind. In 2556, Ian convinced the Free Worlds League, the Capellan Confederation, to sign the Treaty of Geneva. This would lay the groundwork for the Star League. So at this point, the Star League is definitely becoming a thing. The Lyran Commonwealth would sign in 2558, the Federated Suns in 2567, and finally the Draconis Combine in 2569. Don't worry about the little periphery states. I'm sure they had a choice. Yeah, no, they're going to get obliterated if they don't. So the periphery states, doesn't really fucking matter what they think, to show you what the inner sphere thinks of the periphery. Thus, all of mankind was finally reunited under the enlightened Cameron princesses. No? No princesses? Fuck. Well, Ian Cameron will have to do then. Now, for 200 years, the Star League would maintain a steady peace between the houses, bringing about a new rockin' age for mankind, though it couldn't keep states from within from minor conflicts. Because, human nature, conflict, it's going to happen regardless. But it prevented the fantastic wars I'm really missing at this point. Very much lacking wars. I'm getting a little anxious, actually. Don't worry, lads. I smell glory on the horizon. Only a few decades away from total fucking collapse. All right, so in 2751, the First Lord Simon Cameron, died tragically in an actual accident. Who would have fucking thought? He fucking was trying to mess with the mech because he thought it was cool, like a work mech, and he fucking blew out a fucking airlock in some mining colony because he had to stop there and just check it out. He wanted to play with it. And 9 other people died, but nobody cares about them. He's dead, leaving his son. But don't, whoa, hold on. I'm going past some things. But don't let that accident fool you guys. The houses would begin to beat the drums of conspiracies because definitely every house is going to fucking start spreading the fan and flaming that fan of possible fucking war. Now, Simon had a son, so there's no war right now, and his son's name is Richard Cameron. And while too young, the other houses would help regent the young boy, and help is a strong word, because as you can imagine, every house would try to manipulate the young, impressionable Richard to be more favorable to their houses so they could get an upper edge on the other house. So we're starting to see the seeds of chaos being planted here. The boy would turn to guidance from a man named Stephen Amaris. He was the ruler of the Rimworld's Republic, believing that the Periphery State Lord could not harbor any hatreds towards the Cameron dynasty, which, to Richard's defense, he was far too young to rule all of mankind to begin with. On the 27th of December, 2766, Stephen Amaris would actually kill the First Lord Richard. Who would have guessed that either? In a gambit to seize the throne. See, Stephen Amaris hated the Camerons, but he was able to keep up the illusion that, Richard would think that he was his friend and was there to support him, and gained his trust and would kill him and try to seize the Star League for himself. However, most of Richard's advisors, Kerensky being, one of the chief ones among them, would be like, hey, dude, you shouldn't trust this guy. But then again, from Richard's standpoint, everybody's been trying to manipulate him. So it's kind of hard because Richard grew up in that kind of environment. So I kind of feel sympathetic towards the poor bastard. Like, he was fucked from the start. He didn't have a chance in hell. All right, so where were we? So, in a gambit to seize the throne of the mighty Star League, within mere weeks, Stephan's coup d'etat is already over, pretty much. He failed. He failed quite simply because the one thing he needed was the support of the staunch Cameron House loyalist, who's a staunch Cameron House loyalist, so you kind of fucked right there, General Alexander Kerensky, who is the commander of the Star League Defense Forces. That's right, the commander of the entire Star League's military. The supreme commander of that. Not the overruling commander, but the next in line. And while he's a pretender, you kind of fucked. Kerensky would launch a bitter 13-year campaign to free the Terran hegemony from the evil grip of the pretender Stephan Amaris. On September 29th, 2779, Kerensky launched the final assault on the final fortress of Amaris on Terra, because we're going to call it Terra now. I like how the science fiction universes always do that. Then again, BattleTech was one of the fucking oldest, so they get a fucking pass on it. Against the overwhelming righteous armies of the Star League, Amaris surrendered because he was fucking pissing himself at this point. So he didn't even fucking fight to the last. However, that was completely pointless because upon the order of the noble Kerensky, Amaris and Amaris' family and closest aides were fucking executed summarily. For crimes against mankind. With that final act of vengeance by the Star League loyalists, so began the cracks of chaos that would finally burst open at the seams of the now battered Star League. In the late 2780s, council lords of the noble houses stripped the loyal Kerensky, savior of the Star League, of his righteous title as protector of the realm, and ordered him to disband the Star League Defense Force, or, we're just going to call it the SLDF for short, because I'm getting tired of saying Star League fucking Defense Force every 5 fucking minutes. So, barely a year later, 2781, all right, the High Council was disbanded. So it's already fucking, like, the Star League is just gone. Everyone's going like, oh, well, we're going to start getting ready. So the Star League has collapsed. It's over. Star League's gone. The dreams of the Star League is over, and that era of unprecedented technological advancements and peace and the betterment of welfare of mankind and all that good shit is gone. Thank God. That shit was gay as hell. Now we're getting to the fun shit. The drums of war began to beat throughout the inner sphere. The houses began to vie for control of the SLDF to secure an advantage to seize the throne. Kerensky, however, was not going to stand idly by while this happened. Kerensky took drastic action in response. On February 14th, 2784, Kerensky proposed to the SLDF Oh god, I gotta take a breath here. Sorry, guys. To leave the sphere and build a new star league beyond known space. Now, Kerensky is fucking losing it at this point because that's pretty fucking crazy. However, in the late month of November, more than 80% of the SLDF, including all assets, resources, and their fucking families, would join him in what would be known as Operation Exodus, taking his ball and floating away and fucking off in space. The inner sphere is fucking speechless. I know I am. Who the fuck would have thought that reaction would happen, especially from the supposed savior of the Star League? Just like, goodbye, I'm going home now, guys. Kerensky, in what I would call a delusional state, believing he could save the inner sphere by taking most of the SLDF tech and military, disarming a considerable portion of successor states. That's what we're going to call them now. We're just going to call them successor states, because at this point, even the lore is going to start referring to successor states once you get out of the Star League era. And that's what all the houses turn into. That's the end of the Star League era. All right, see, we've pounded through the Star League era. You know, it was not a lot really happened, but when it did, it was fucking colossal. You got this colossal stuff. Like, I'd love to see a fucking movie made out of this. No, never mind. Hollywood shit. Never mind. That's a terrible idea. With the Star League gone, nothing is holding the now newly dependent states, or successor states, I'm sorry, would begin a new level of warfare. One that would see the Ares Convention completely fucking ignored, because fuck that shit. That was gay anyways. Nobody needs that. This period would become known as Centuries of War, or the Succession Wars. In complete and unrestricted warfare. And I'm not talking about like last time when they were fighting warfare with little fiefdoms. I'm talking about we have entire sections of the galaxy, like not 40k levels, like, because 40k is completely different, but in terms of like scale, we have systems upon systems upon systems upon systems being attacked, planets upon planets. The space is consumed in a fiery maelstrom of hell and righteous fury. It's fucking awful. Everybody's dying. Everything's getting fucking awful. The inner sphere burned. Technology's getting forgotten because it's being obliterated. Things that weren't supposed to be blown up are getting lost. You know, all sorts of chaos is going to happen at this point. The whole of mankind within the sphere regressed. Like, it's a huge leap backwards, technologically regressing, almost making the Star League's advancements almost pointless. The Battle Mechs, I'm not going to talk about them too much because, again, we're talking about the lore overarching, but they see major roles and they see major, like, doctrine improvements, like you see the Lance things. We'll get into that later if you guys like me talking about lore stuff, and I see a positive feedback. I'll actually fucking expand upon this shit more than you fucking could possibly believe. But anyways, moving on. Basically, mankind's on the verge of a complete dark age. A dark age beyond imagining. Like, just a abyss. There's, like, civilization's going to collapse. Communication's going to collapse. Society as a whole is going to collapse. And it's going to be fucking disgusting. It's going to be basically back to the older initial fiefdom wars, but worse because the weapons have advanced so much. And not to mention everything has been industrialized. And most things have become self-sustaining, so they can all fuel their little wars. Like, even planets can fuel their own little wars, too. As you'll find out when we get deeper into the lore. Now, hold on. I gotta clear my fucking thought here. All right, so, where were we? Okay, succession. All right, so, we're gonna skip. It's the year, because the Succession Wars are fucking, like, they're just fucking unrestricted warfare. This is fucking awful. But towards the end of the third Succession War, in the year 3020, Archon Katrina Steiner of the Lyran Commonwealth tried to bring peace by sending a peace proposal to all the successor states that were currently warring with each other. Now, everyone would ignore, save for one successor state, which was House Davion, the Federated Sons, Prince Hans Davion to be exact. In 3022, the two concluded a secret alliance that would bring their realms together. Hans Davion would marry the daughter of the current ruling Steiner, Militia Steiner, and who was also the heir to the throne. So this is fucking sealing these two major factions into one consolidated force. And what's best about these two factions, when we go into later depths, you'll see how they complement each other. But we're not going to get too much in that. Now, a marriage that bound the two successor states into a single union, though the official marriage hadn't been held yet, we'll save their wedding for a day for another video, because it's that fucking spicy. Their wedding day fucking blows the balls off of Game of Thrones. It's fucking beautiful. They would form into what would be called the Federated Commonwealth. You know, kind of like their old name, like just sort of merge the two things together, kind of. But following this news, the Compelling Confederation, the Draconis Combine, and the Free Worlds League would chat themselves collectively. And they would form a defensive pact very quickly after, in 3024, called the Concord of Capitan. This would sort of bring about the end of the Succession Wars, and this is when BattleTech starts in 3025. And we have already this sort of set up for another fourth Succession War, which is on the horizon. And spoiler alert, I mean, all this stuff has happened. This BattleTech game is set slightly before the Clan Wars, so if you're thinking about like clans and stuff and what happened to Kerensky's dudes, we'll talk about that later, but honestly, he doesn't matter, and the clans don't matter right now. What's going to matter now is the fourth Succession War. And a few things I didn't really get to talking about that I wanted to was Mercenaries, because Mercenaries are going to play a huge role in this, and a lot of the SLDF forces that stayed behind would eventually form into mercenary companies. And fun fact, one of Kerensky's mercenary companies, I think in 3005, if I remember correct, not Kerensky's mercenary companies, but a chunk of Kerensky's forces would come back to sort of like sneak in and just see what the inner sphere is doing and report back. But they would sort of act as mercenaries, you know, working for all the houses. And I think they were the Wolf's Dragoons, if I remember right. Yeah, they're the Wolf's Dragoons. And they would sort of like sneak around and do that stuff. Another thing I didn't talk about too much is Comm Star. Comm Star would sort of take over some of the Terran hegemony's territories. They would also take over the pulse generators, which is how they communicate in the BattleTech universe. See, there's so much depth to it, but because I have some time here, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. These pulse generators are used to send communications back and forth. And because Comm Star has control of these things, they also use a currency called C-bills. And C-bills are kind of the currency for everyone, because everybody's got to use Comm Star, because nobody knows how to operate this, because during the centuries of war, everyone forgot about how to use these things. So Comm Star's got a fucking monopoly on that. Comm Star over the years has become very stupefied and religious. It's kind of like a secretive organization, has the biggest hoard of Star League tech, and it's just fucking, it's actually scary powerful, but it's just sitting under the nose of everyone, because everyone has to rely on it. And go figure, if Comm Star controls the communications, they can spark wars at a fucking whim, just miscommunicates. A message disappeared here and there. Someone's private message was leaked here. Comm Star is one of the factions that I should have mentioned earlier, but they control a real viceroy grip on things. I don't know if the BattleTech game will actually go into how bad Comm Star's control over things is, but Comm Star is an entity. The mercenary companies play a huge role. The way the society is all honor-based, you know, it's medieval. It's like Game of Thrones, but better. It's like Warhammer 40k, but much more natural and feels much more... I know, you got fucking giant battle mechs and it feels more natural. But it's much more... I don't know, realistic, it feels like. More grounded in reality. Because Warhammer 40k is much more fantastical, but I love both, so fuck it. Because you can love more than one little thing. Makes you a bit of a fucking science fiction fantasy slut, but who cares? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, let me know, because I don't know if I'm going to produce this kind of content. Now, this is sort of a one-off, but BattleTech has been my fucking jam for fucking ever. And I've always wanted to play BattleTech tabletop, but I live like in the middle of nowhere, and I never have. So I have all these books. Yeah, a whole fucking stack of them over here right next to me. Just a fucking huge stack, because I was reading through them to make this video. And, yeah, it's just been sitting there collecting dust, and I'm just like, oh, finally, I have an excuse to geek out about my BattleTech. And this picture here that I'm using as a placeholder, I'm going to cut this section of the video, by the way. If you didn't know. Because this is a preemptive video for the video that's going to replace it, which is going to be the animated video. So this video is cut here, and we're going to be editing it. So this is sort of a sneak peek to the lore video. Or, lore video? I'm a lore master? Oh boy, I can't wait. Anyways, without further ado, this is your host, Captain Kibbs, before you You know, do people like it when I rant? This is what it looks like when I rant. Is it constructed well? I don't know. Anyways, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, before I fucking lose my goddamn mind, this is your host, Captain Kibbs, signing off. And we'll see you all in the next video. Because I will do a couple more videos on BattleTech, even if it doesn't, you know, even if people don't like it. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.